What's going on, Dolphins fans? It's Connor from the Dolphins Dive, and today we're talking about the offensive line ahead of the Miami Dolphins 2023 training camp. Now, I know on paper this offensive line isn't the best.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
All right. I know it's not the best, but it doesn't stink. Now, I'm pretty optimistic about some of the young people coming up and the development of some people, as well as the additions that we made in the offseason of some veteran players that can push our young players to either be better or take their jobs and become starters themselves. So I'm going to go over who's currently on the roster. I'm going to start with the tackles, and the offensive line's a deep room for camp, and a lot of it gets cut. But for the tackles, we have Teron Armstead, Isaiah Wynn, James Tunstall, which is too close to Turnstall. I think that's a red flag. Keon Smith, Cedric Agbuhi, Kendall Lamb, Ryan Hayes, Jerron Christian, Austin Jackson. For the interior offensive line, we got Connor Williams, Alama Ulave, who's a fellow Oos, Robert Jones, Robert Hunt, Liam Eichenberg, Dan Feeney, and Lester Cotton. So lots of names, and we're probably going to end up with eight or nine of them on the 53-man roster. So a lot of them are going to end up getting cut. So I'm going to start with the main camp battles. And I'm going to start with the starting players because 3 players on this offensive line are basically set starters. Left tackle, Teron Armstead. I don't care how well anyone does, nobody's going to beat him out. Center, it's going to be Connor Williams, and right guard, it's going to be Robert Hunt. Unless they choose to move Robert Hunt to right tackle, which they've continuously said they don't want to. I've been a fan of that, but they don't want to do it. So those 3 spots are locked up in my opinion. So the main positions up for grabs on the starting offensive line are going to be left guard and right tackle. Now, last year, the starting left guard was Liam Eichenberg, and the starting right tackle was Austin Jackson. They're both returning, but they now have competition in those rooms that are going to be pushing them for those spots. So those people are going to be competing for those spots again, but there's added competition. So I'm going to start with left guard. I think the starting left guard job is up for grabs between 3 players. I've got Liam Eichenberg, Dan Feeney, and Robert Jones. Obviously, Liam Eichenberg played last season. The coaching staff raved about how much they appreciated his improvement. Now, there's some tape going around Twitter, as there always is, of him getting exposed from time to time. That happens with most players, but it was a little bit alarming, but the coaching staff was optimistic. And unfortunately, Liam Eichenberg went down with an injury. Robert Jones stepped in, and Robert Jones held his own. He didn't necessarily thrive, but he was pretty solid for a backup left guard. So he's a guy that I'm expecting to come in and push Eichenberg for that starting left guard spot again. And then we added Dan Feeney in the offseason from the Jets. He was a center, but he can play guard as well. So I think he's going to, at minimum, be a backup center, but I think he's going to be pushing for that left guard spot as well. So I think those are the 3 main names in the mix at starting left guard. Now, there's always a chance that one of these young offensive linemen come out of nowhere and push them for those jobs. We have, like I said, the UDFAs. Lester Cotton, we signed to the practice squad late last year. He started at left guard for us during the wild card game because of all the injuries that we had. Alamu Ulave, who's also an undrafted free agent, a fellow Oos, could potentially maybe come out of nowhere, but for the most likely, I think the camp battle for starting left guard is between those 3 guys. Now, right tackle is a different story, and I'm very excited for this competition. I think this camp battle is going to be the best for the entire team this year between Austin Jackson, Isaiah Wynn, who we signed in the offseason, and Cedric Agbuhi, sorry I butchered his name, who we also signed in the offseason. So it's basically Austin Jackson versus 2 vets. Isaiah Wynn was a first-round pick out of Georgia, obviously with the Patriots, and they didn't re-sign him. Now, when the Dolphins signed him, I was very happy about that because I was just clamoring for some competition at the position. Now, when it happened, I was getting shit on by Patriots fans for me being happy we signed him. They're like, oh, he sucks. There's a lot of speculation around Isaiah Wynn. He struggled when he moved from the left side to the right side, but he was also dealing with some injuries. So obviously those are a concern of a player is if he gets injured, but I think part of his poor play was due to injury. So I'm excited in a new scheme with more competent offensive line coaching this year than the Patriots had last year. Wynn's a big body who can move, so he fits the nature of the scheme. He's had some rough seasons. He's had some good seasons. So fresh start. He's on a cheap contract. I'm excited to see him push Austin Jackson for that right tackle spot. And then Cedric Agbuhi, I got to stop saying the name. I keep butchering it. But a veteran. I think he's been in the league for like 10 years. He's bounced around many different spots. I think his last spot was with the Bengals. But once again, just brings veteran presence to the room. At worst case scenario, he ends up getting cut or is a backup offensive lineman who's got veteran experience, can probably play both ways. Best case scenario, he pushes Austin Jackson for the right tackle spot. So I'm excited to see how Cedric does and see the impact he has on this offensive line. But I think this competition is going to help determine how well our offensive line is, because if this right tackle job can be pretty good, the rest of our offensive line is honestly pretty solid. Despite the previous history of the Dolphins, we would have a good offensive line if this right tackle spot could get situated. So I'm excited / nervous to see how this positional battle comes to play. I'm hoping best man wins, and even if it's Austin Jackson, if it's the best man wins and he's the best man, I hope he has developed even more, because he does look a lot better. He slimmed down this offseason, so I'm hoping we get the best play possible out of our right tackle, regardless of who it is. So last year, the Dolphins kept 8 offensive linemen on the roster. For my projection, I have us keeping 9. And once again, I don't have all in the insight on the current players. I'm not really projecting any of these undrafted free agents to come in and make the roster. I'm not saying it's not possible. I'm rooting for them wholeheartedly. I hope one of these guys pans out as an absolute star. But I'm going off of my current knowledge. I'm going to project the 9 players I think are going to make this roster, and I'm going to start with the projected offensive line. Obviously, left tackle, Teron Armstead, that's locked down. I think Liam Eichenberg is going to win the left guard job. I think Connor Williams wins the center job. I think Robert Hunt wins the right guard job. And for right tackle, I have Isaiah Wynn coming away with the job. But I would not be surprised, and I know Dolphins fans gave him a lot of shit, and there was a lot of high expectations with him being a first-round pick, but I do think Austin Jackson winning that job is not far from a question. Once again, he got hurt 2 times last year and barely played. The coaching staff seemed optimistic with him. Now, to be fair, they're optimistic with most players, but I do think with how he slimmed down this offseason and with the coaching staff being in place for 2 years in a row, so they're finally Austin Jackson, for his first time in his NFL career, is in the same scheme. I think that does benefit him, and I think we'll see the fruit of that labor in this training camp. And I think he can very well win the right tackle job, but I'm going to go with Isaiah Wynn, who's had proven success in this league. I think he might edge the battle. So I think those are the 5 starters, with the backups being Robert Jones, Dan Feeney, and Austin Jackson, and Cedric. I'm not going to say his last name because I'm going to butcher it. So that's how I see the offensive line falling. Comment down below, though. Do you agree, disagree? How do you see the offensive line shaping up? I know you guys probably disagree with some of those takes, but that's all I've got today. I appreciate you guys for watching. It means the most to me. Like and subscribe to help the channel grow. Until next time, I'll catch y'all.